Last week, we talked about managers. Managers have the personality of trying to put out or avoid problems before they ever get started. Managers learn how to deflect and divert and kind of keep things in front of them and try to avoid a blow up at Thanksgiving or a blow up at Christmas or whatever, July 4th, whenever it's going to be. How do I have the family over here and kind of plan out in advance how to avoid any conflict? We love, if we're managers, being able to do that. And so I'll sit her over there, I'll sit her over here, I'll ask them to come when the food's all ready so that they don't got to prep anything, because they always get into a battle with Aunt Susie when they want to prep stuff. You know the whole family deal. A lot of us are pretty good at that kind of organization of the choir, the family choir. And so, you decide who's going to come when and how it's going to be and how long maybe they're going to stay. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it just doesn't. And that's when a manager personality just really is going to struggle. It's hard, because your go-to has kind of now defied you. So tonight, though, we're talking about firefighters. So firefighters are not planners or structurers. They're really even avoiders like managers. Firefighters are just wall-to-wall reactors. They try to put out pain when it shows up. Both managers and firefighters are afraid of the exiles. We've talked about those guys, the people in the personalities inside of us that we try desperately to shove down. You were molested as a child by your Uncle Sam when you were 11 years old. Tonight, no one besides you knows that. Your spouse doesn't know that. None of your friends know that. None of your family know that. God forbid the relative of that person doesn't know that. You've kept that secret for 31 or 41 or whatever number of years. This is a common thing, what I'm talking about. And so, because of that, you have all kinds of other fires that are going on in your life, because if you can't talk about it in a healthy, open way, you're going to find a way to express what's happening to you. And so all kinds of other stuff is likely going to occur. There might have been that one event at some family meal where that person was there, and you over the most insignificant thing, they burnt the rolls or they burnt the steak or the hamburgers or whatever, and you sat there on that particular night and you lost your mind. But only you know why you lost your mind. Everybody else just thinks you were having a bad day, you went a little crazy, whatever. There's so much more to it than that. No one knows that story, and probably nobody ever will. Both managers and exiles and firefighters are afraid of the pain that exiles, like that example I gave you, are going to bring. But both managers and firefighters make the pain of the exiles even worse, because not talking about it, not getting it in the open, certainly doesn't make it better. Having to keep that secret, maybe till your death, doesn't make it better, doesn't make you okay, causes other things going on inside of you, stuff like what we're talking about. So a definition of a firefighter would be this. A firefighter is a protector of the soul who has big league burdens and has parts that attempt to extinguish the pain of the exile that the exile is bringing, whatever's causing the exile, reactively after the exile has been triggered. So, you got the uncle that I'm talking about that molested you when you were 11. So you walk into a high school football game, and you haven't seen that uncle in 20 years. And then you look around the corner and you look at it, you see a guy that you think is that uncle. It's probably not that uncle. It doesn't take him being actually you're that uncle. It could be like a, what do you call it, like a doppelganger, right? That's like a double, yeah. I can't believe I know that. I'm pretty proud I know that. Wow. Oh, Carol never even told me that. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. But, it probably is a doppelganger or something that looks like him. But all it does is mightily trigger you because it takes you back to what happened whenever that event happened. And then the next thing you're going to do is they're going to be like calling you, come on over, we got a seat for you. And you're going to be like, no, I can't be here. And they're going to ask you that night what happened. And you're going to go, well, I got sick. I didn't feel well. I really had a headache. I felt dizzy. None of which is true, but all of which contributes to how do I keep myself from having to get to the bottom of this. Common firefighter strategies when the exiles trigger stuff in us include the classics: addiction, disordered eating, one way or the other, self-harm, violence, disassociation, obsession, compulsion, fantasy, and rage. Like a rage firefighter is always trying to do one thing. We've talked about people moving toward and people moving away. Well, a rage firefighter, they're a tough person to be around. They are always trying desperately to keep you, you've met people like this, right? To keep you pushed away. Like you worry about talking to that person 2 weeks before you're actually going to be with them. Because you being you want to try and say just the right thing, do just the right thing, come up with just the right menu, whatever activities, whatever, that's going to be okay for them. But the thing about it is, it's highly unlikely you're ever going to really satisfy someone who's in that firefighter role. The rage firefighter, though, is always trying to do this one thing. That is, I'm trying to keep people away from me. Like, you're going to go, well, they are a tough client for therapists, probably, because you're going to go to see a therapist. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Probably odds are not good that you would go, but let's say you went. So how are you? Well, I'm fine. You're going to keep all of that sense of support, help, concern pushed away as far as you can. And so in the quest to keep people pushed away from any of that, what happens? You become more angry, more rageful, and an outcrop of it, more isolated. Like firefighters are also great isolators. Unless they're in the middle of an activity where they just, they're able to protect themselves with whatever the activity is. I'll give you an example. A lot of you probably have a friend who is calm, quiet, and collected 95% of the time. But let's just say that 5% of the time, they decide they're not going to have 2 beers, but they're going to have 10 beers. And now they're loud, they're argumentative, they're all of that. And now the whole thing of pushing people away, they're doing it in spades. It's like, that's kind of how that works. If you go in the other direction, there really is such a thing, and a lot of us probably don't believe this, but there really is such a thing as healthy anger. There really is. Like, healthy anger tries to move people toward real relationships. Now, some of us are terrified of this whole idea of healthy anger because you were raised in a family where you were told outright, no Christians ever get angry about anything. The mortal sin would be if Christians get angry at God, because you can't have that. You just cannot have that. That's just way out of line. Like, it's not right, it's not smart, it's not good. You're probably going to pay for it in the end. But like, that whole thing of healthy anger is not something most of us have been taught growing up. Like, it's foreign to us. Like, to sit there and try to have a conversation without yelling and screaming and just kind of go, I wanted you to know that today I was really angry at something that you said. And this is why I was angry. And this is what this did. This is what this did to me. Like, I'm responsible for the way I'm feeling, but this is what actually happened. And I want to tell you that. And I might be angry for a while, but the thing is, it's like on me to decide what to do with my anger. It's on me to resolve that inside of myself. It's on me to, if I'm a Christian, turn that over into the hands of Jesus. Healthy anger can be unbelievably creative and unbelievably productive, especially in relationships of significance. Most of us, a lot of us are not used to this idea that you would ever share your actual feelings with your parents. You might try to share your feelings enough to be able to get your way, but you're not going to necessarily tell your parents, when you said this or when you did this, this hurt my feelings. It made me angry because you said, you were 17 and you said, man, I'm thinking about going to college. And your dad said, for what? Like, you've never been that good of a student. I mean, like, why would you go to college? You should just try to get a job. And you took that with you, and it like created a wound in you that you were now designated as a defective person, meaning you just aren't a good student. And to come through that, it probably will take being able to go back to your dad and go, the starting point is kind of like, Dad, when you said that, it hurt me. Or when you said that, it made me angry. When you said that, it made me angry. We just are not, that's not something we're used to. Like, we're not used to people being angry and at the same time loving us deeply. But it's if you really look at the way that Jesus does his work, it's one of the most honest, integrity-ridden pieces of emotion that there is. If you go through Scripture, just the second half, the New Testament, you will find in there several situations of high conflict, several situations of high anger. But what you will not find is Jesus not loving that exact same person. Because anger and love, they really honestly can go together. We, in our Hallmark movies, we don't tend to really think like, we just kind of want to go, yeah, well, I mean, in a Hallmark movie, anger is always a bad thing. Disappointment is always a bad thing. 20 minutes before the movie is over, there's some kind of conflict, major conflict. The couple breaks up. Wonder of wonders, 7 minutes before the movie's over, they're basically standing at an altar getting married. And we don't ever really get down to the full deal. We don't ever. That's why they're Hallmark movies, because they're express versions of our emotions, man. We like them. You can get done of them if they're on streaming in about, an hour and 40 minutes? If not, 2 hours with the commercials, So, I mean, hey, how can you beat that? It's hard to imagine that love and anger can actually go together. Like, my parents taught me that when basically my dad said, I said something to my dad about how do you and mom, I don't know how you and mom like never get into it. My dad goes, oh, we get into it plenty. And so I go, oh, well, I didn't know that. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, like we have made a resolution that, you know, we're just never going to let ourselves go to bed angry because there's 6 of you and there's 2 of us. And we're always afraid that you might take us out. He goes, there's more of you than us. There's more of you than us in this house. We're afraid we're going to get moved out of our room or whatever. We're going to find ourselves in the garage. He goes, we're afraid of a lot of things. But he said, you know, the other thing is he said to me, which was really, you're like, God, I still live with this trauma. My dad also said to me, another way that we talked through our anger with each other is we decided that, I mean, I must have been white when he said this. Like, he goes, we just decided we're going to take off all of our clothes and stand there in front of each other completely naked and talk about how we feel. He goes, you would be surprised at how that's going to change things, Mark. And I'm like going, no, Dad, I probably wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I would be like. This is tough for me, man, because it's like, no one ever said that. I would never, ever in a billion years suggest that to a girlfriend. I mean, there's no way possible. You know what we should do while we're having this argument? Let me tell you what my dad said. My dad said we get completely naked and stand here until we get better. It's like, oh, great idea. But I mean, it did surprise me that my parents had the same kind of stuff going on with them that we did with us as siblings. And I mean, it also brought me, though, a tremendous amount of comfort that they could work through their anger and come out on the other side having grown. Just like the experiences with Jesus, every time Jesus offers somebody resolution and reconciliation in the middle of his anger and theirs, he gives them the option or the choice to like take it in or walk away from it, which in the Bible, there are several instances where people just go, man, I can't really handle that. I'm going to walk away. And they do. Driving the behavior of firefighters is the pain of the exiles, which the exile will go to any length. The push of the exile will go to any length to extinguish. So there's all kinds of tools that firefighters will use to be able to stay on the run and like put out fires. Like the general consensus of these tools is that they feel really good in the short run and they feel really bad in the long run. Here are some simpler and more obvious ones, like eating disorders, to the good or to the healthy, too healthy of eating or whatever that means, or like binging, whatever, or overeating. Drinking and drugging, that's an obvious. Sexually acting out, that's an obvious. Some more are, I like this one, getting small. Like trying to find a way, while maybe you are drinking or drugging, that no one is going to pay any more attention to you than they possibly have to. You get small when you stay nondescript, you fly below the radar. You're always, when someone asks you how you're doing, you're always going to say what? Fine. You're always fine. Everything's always fine. You're carrying around a boatload of pain and nobody knows it. And it just gets harder and harder and harder, and still nobody knows it. There's more. There's acquiring. Acquiring means you're a shopping spree person. You know, like I have talked to people multiple times now who they have a parent, and the parent, they kind of have known this for a while, but the parent literally goes on Home Shopping Network or whatever, what's a QVC? And they spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on those products, thinking just this one thing is probably going to be the one thing that's going to put me over the edge and make me content. The one thing that's going to keep my exile quiet. The one thing that's going to make this fire go away. The one thing. But acquiring doesn't do it. Disassociation means that I kind of find a way to stop trying to think about what is really in my heart, what's really going on in my soul. I try to find another way to just obsess about a variety of things, whatever it is. Could be even another compulsion, gambling, whatever, could be anything. But those are some of them. Some more are, like I said, one that I mentioned was spending out of control. Self-harm is another one. And self-harm isn't really limited. It is not limited to cutting, and it's not limited to, just stuff like that. It's also the kind of self-harm you do when you're not taking any kind of care of yourself emotionally. That's also self-harming. It's self-harming when you are driving a car and you can't remember, you're on the freeway and you can't remember the last 20 minutes you've been on the road. You don't have any, you look down and it was 271 miles to Nashville or whatever, and now it's 220 something you can't remember. You can't remember. There's all those. There's overworking. There's over busyness. If you can find somebody who's got that over busyness firefighter technique, man, you want them around if you got a whole bunch of stuff to do. Get them. I mean, that make them happy, make you happy. Not really, but that's a big one. Humor and sarcasm. Have you ever met somebody that always has one of the funniest things of all time to say, but they're never really having any deep fun inside of themselves, right? You don't see their demeanor or their attitude ever really change. They're the life of the party, but inside all hell is going on. They're the life of the party Friday night, but Saturday they're by themselves, basically way down in the dumps. You've met that person. You've met a people pleaser. You've met an over-socializer who's got to go every party, all things, always there, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. You've met those people. You've met people that are involved in fantasies. It's not true, but my wife has this deep love, whatever you want to call it, of and I don't ever harass her about it, of course, but of what I call Visigoth movies, but they're really, what she would call them is BritBox or whatever. They're like medieval or whatever romance dealies. It's man, these people are weird, Carol. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? She's like, if you would just pay attention to this for an hour, you would like it. I'm like, no, the thing is probably number one, I'm probably not smart enough to watch a movie like this. I should stick to the Hallmark movie. I know what's going to happen. I know all the way it's diagnosed. It makes me feel comfortable that I can predict what's going to happen in those movies. It does. I'm like, in your movie, people cut their fingers off, cut their head off, cut their horse head off, whatever. They do weird stuff. And you're paying for it. Fantasy. That's not really, it is her, but that's not really her issue. But anyway, another deal is another way that we kind of handle trying to put fires out is numbing stuff, numbing the way we feel, numbing what's really going on, or shutting down emotionally altogether. Are any of you aware of what is happening to you? Have you had enough therapy to kind of realize what the pre-steps are to knowing when you're kind of in the middle of shutting down. Anybody got that? It's critical that you can kind of like be able to see that, right? Because you can do so much else once you become aware of that, so much else to kind of like manage those feelings in an upfront way than just kind of it being a mystery. We also have some of the classics like anger and rage. Those are classics. There's a term that she uses in this book, Altogether You. And the term is called a tormentor. And this is the definition. A tormentor is an internal family system term for an activating situation or person. By noticing what parts become active in oneself in response to a tormentor, an individual will be able to identify their own burdened parts that actually need healing. Thus, tormenting people in situations, here's the wild part, are actually a great gift to one's own personal growth and healing. It's kind of that situation, maybe on a much milder level. Maybe it's not like that you were abused sexually by an uncle. Maybe it's not that situation, but maybe it's something like this. Go back and let's talk again about like some important holiday in your life. Maybe it's Labor Day, maybe it's 4th of July, maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's Thanksgiving, maybe it's Easter, whatever. It's an important event. And you had your aunt and your uncle over to your house for dinner. Or maybe it was your mom. And the single message you got out of that was you tried to be the little girl or the boy that was setting the table. And so you would go and set up every place setting just so, all 12 or whatever. But the thing was, every single one, the pattern of where you put the silverware was different. I mean, it took me into my 20s to figure that whole thing out. Like, I mean, I still don't. If you ask me right now what fork goes where, I couldn't tell you to save my life. I would pick the one that looks good, the one that's linear, which is the tallest, shortest, and the next. I'm sure that's not right, but now I don't really care as a thing. But, you know, along the way, that could have great impact because the takeaway while you were trying to help is what? You don't know enough. Just let me do it. Let me fix it. Let me do it the way it should be done. How do you hear that if you're 13 years old? You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You don't know. You're not going to do it right. You're just not good enough. And that's like, there are a couple ways to have done that if you're a parent. Like, my dad would get all of us out there. We had this pretty big yard with lots of trees. And so when you had to like do the leaves, it was a big deal. Like we would have these major mounds of leaves back in the backwoods that we would dump it on. And those things were still pretty high by late spring. But my dad would put them all in a blanket and we would carry them in a blanket back to that pile. And so we would all get done, and then the next morning, he would go out there and like have the mower out a little bit and like be doing this and be doing that and like, quote, tidying up. So my mom asked him once, honey, like, why don't you do all that when you got the kids out there? They can help you. And my dad goes, man, I'm really glad that all the kids are out there. We were all 6 out there all the time. And he goes, I'm just so glad they're out there. We're having fun. I don't want to do anything to take away their fun or mine from that. He goes, if I got to do a little bit more afterwards, so what? It's worth it. Like, Can you guys not imagine? Can you not imagine that being something that God or Jesus would say to you right now? Like, you don't got to be perfect. You don't got to do it all right. We just got to be able to enjoy each other's company. We've got to be able to have some fun together. We've got to be able to love each other. And that, young man and that young lady, is enough.